el ajonjolí de todos los moles, el hombre detrás del volante, the middle.
¡Ay, papi!
Así que prepárense para una hora informativa, pero también divertida de el show de The Juan Hour Show. Con ustedes, Juan José Chávez.
Muy buenas noches. Aquí estamos otra vez en el programa de Juan Hour Show. I like to call it Spanglish Radio here in Tacoma. But as you know, if somebody speaks pretty much only English, we're going to stick with English, and I'll probably say a few words in Spanish. But tonight, if you're listening, hopefully you're inside in the air conditioning, because, oh my gosh, it's been like 80-something day today. And
it's like
90s or something, yeah. And I normally don't wear my hat, but I was at the lake today a little bit, so I didn't get a chance to change. So here we are. Tonight, I'm very excited to be here. As you know, Tacoma is a city of change, but it's also a city of, just being with the people that we love. And so what I'm going to do is tonight, I'm going to let my co-host, Melissa, introduce our guests so we can get right on it, because I got a feeling we're going to have a full hour tonight.
Yes, so we have Erin Sarvis here. She is a 26-year-old mother of 3, born and raised in Tacoma. Erin founded an award-winning nonprofit at the age of 24. Her goal was to build Black generational wealth while fighting against police brutality and systemic racism. So the New Generation 2.0 hosted a business barbecue protest at Wright Park in 2020, which birthed what is now the Bite of Black business. And when I first understood who you were was when you and my kids were down with Siobhan down at the Capitol, at the protest down at the Capitol. And then, I feel like the first time that we actually, met face-to-face, I'm not sure if you remember, but, the first time that we met face-to-face, I think it was when we were protesting in front of the police department over there off of Pine Street, right? Yeah. So how did you first come up with the idea for the first barbecue protest?
We first got started with barbecue protests because that's kind of our vibe. Anytime we would protest, we'd always bring a grill and music because we really wanted to connect with people. And then we did the cookout at the Capitol. We kind of was just out there doing barbecue protests, and then we decided to kind of mix business with it because we wanted to build generational wealth, and we knew we could do that by helping people create Black businesses. And there was no place in Tacoma that I felt like I could find more than 5 Black businesses together. So we kind of were okay, we're gonna do a Black business barbecue protest and have all these Black businesses come out so we know where they're at, because we wanted people to support these businesses, but we couldn't find them. So let's bring them all together, and that's kind of how it birthed that idea.
Nice.
Right. So the first protest, were there a lot of businesses there, or did it grow as you came along?
First protest, I think my goal was 50 businesses, and we had over 100, 113 show up and set up. And at that time, it was just pull up, set up, and show out, and that's kind of what they did.
Yeah. So can you tell us a few of the businesses who were there for the first time?
So we have Greedy Vegan. That was one of our first businesses. Rich Port Do-Rags. Moose's Burgers, but he really sells pies, ironically. We've also had Royalties, Button Bros. They're a youth. They're a group of, there's 2 little boys who have a business called Button Bros. So they rode out with us, so it was pretty amazing. Felicia's Treats. So, yeah, she's still riding with us. It's kind of iconic to have some people who started with us still be with us. This is our 3rd season. So.
Right. And she actually was there at the last Saeed get-together thing that we had, right? It was the anniversary, right? When we went with the Panthers and there were businesses there.
Oh, yeah. Was it Greedy Vegan?
No, who was the last person that you just said? The cookie cake lady.
Felicia's.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, she's been to a lot of.
She supports a lot of things.
So, how was the reaction to the rest of the community? I mean, do you remember any of that, more of the outcome of it versus the outcome of putting it together?
I believe the community liked it, but we had some folks who didn't like it. Their main issues with it was because we didn't have permits, and they felt like we weren't following the rules, and they felt like our event wasn't safe. And we've had like 10,000 people in the park, and there hasn't been any violence or any need for police. We don't have police police us. We actually are able to keep ourselves.
Was the police there though? I'm assuming.
No.
No?
Yeah,
wow,
no. We've
awesome.
done. I think we did an 18-month span every month in the park, and we never needed the police there for any interactions or anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So it became like a regular thing. I mean, it wasn't just to me. A protest is a one-time kind of everybody shouts, kind of brings the point to what it is, and.
So we started it. We started it once, and then we were like, well, why don't we keep going? Because actually, July there's Buy Black. It's a day. It's called Blackout, where you support Black businesses all over the globe. So it kind of spanned it from that day, and then we were like, well, why aren't we doing it every single day? And then it just sparked the idea of this prolonged protest to continue it on for months. And then some people, I mean, if you're still buying black, you're still being a part of the protest. So it's still going.
Yeah, and she was mentioning like generational wealth and things like that. Do you see now that you put this together, people are more willing to open up or work with black businesses in Tacoma or anything positive like that?
Yeah, I honestly think that people have been able to like accept more black businesses. Like, we're there, they acknowledge us, and more people want to support black businesses. So the best way you can support a black business is helping them set up. So if you're throwing an event, ask for some recommendations, allow them to come set up and give them a chance, because I know a lot of black businesses that are now able to participate in some participated in the Taste of the Northwest or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool to see people like start from the park and be able to go into other events, like other markets around the city. That's the goal, is to not just support the Vitalight business, but to get these businesses in every single market all over.
Get them out there,
in stores, on websites. That's kind of the goal.
Yeah, I call them brick and mortar. In other words, you can actually physically go somewhere and enjoy them.
Right. So the Bite a Black Business was one of the protests that sprung out of what a bigger group was doing, right? Because who started? Just the New Generation 2.0, or was there anybody else who helped start the Bite a Black Business? Because we were all doing a whole bunch of things together. Yeah.
So the New Generation 2.0 founded the Bite a Black Business really as a fundraiser to support our youth center, because our goal is to build a youth center in Tacoma. So one of the ways to do that was to create, a fundraiser and an event that could, get some revenue in one day to build the youth center. So collectively, we thought of the idea and put it on. But honestly, a lot of organizations and a lot of people in the community have supported the Bite. So sometimes I don't like to try to say that I created it, because I may have promote the heck out of this, but there's people that are behind the scenes that are actively working and wishing greatness on this, just being positive towards it, sharing a post, sharing a flyer, telling a friend. That all plays a line in creating the Bite, because without those people, I really wouldn't be here and I really wouldn't be continuing this. So Legally Black was one amazing organization that would always show up and show out. The Black Panthers were always there to support us and run as our security. The African American Defense Federation, they were always there holding it down. Sisters of Solidarity was there holding it down. There was probably 50 more organizations I'm not naming that sometimes want to be nameless, that were helping and supporting the Bite. And even people I probably can't say on record, kids were at the Bite that run things here in Tacoma, that they couldn't say they came to the Bite because it was they had no permits. So nobody in city council can't say they were there. People can't post pictures. Yeah, we had a lot of dope people support it. So I appreciate everybody still supporting, everyone showing up and showing out. That's kind of the goal.
So, not to jump too far ahead, you mentioned no permits. Any progress?
Yeah, so before I was told that there could never be the Body Black Business Market in Wright Park, and when they told me that, I was crushed, and I was like, well, that's not right. That's impossible. So how can I get there? So we established a Washington State nonprofit. Our goal is to get to a federal state nonprofit, and then we started a farmers market last summer on MLK, and then this year we decided to bring it back to the park. So we're an official farmers market at Wright Park.
Nice.
We have all of our permits from the city, from the fire department, from the park, the health department this year.
That's a lot of work.
So yeah,
you must have a good committee there.
Yeah, we got navigated through the process. It wasn't easy. This is like a 6-month, trial and error thing, and making sure everybody has the paperwork they need, and I'm answering all the questions and concerns they have. I went through a review process, so to be here and
in other words, you're the unsung hero here.
yeah, to be here and almost be days away from something that once was people thought I was a criminal for doing is amazing. So,
well, talking about coming up, we could start mentioning it throughout the show. Give us some dates.
Yeah, so July 31st is the first Body Black Business Farmers Market out at Wright Park. We start at 12 to 6. At the Body Black Business this year, we have a new type of vibe. We will have a home buyers class. We have a business entrepreneur class and workshop. We also have a kids read, so come out and get your children read too. We have a number of amazing organizations out this year to help build businesses, to help you build your nonprofit. The goal this year is to get you into the next bite next year. So come out and get connected with us.
Yeah, and not. I mean, I know this sounds terrible, maybe coming from me, but you don't have to be an African American to support, right? You don't have to be, black on a black support. You can be anybody, Hispanic, any race, and just show up. So
one thing about the bite is we keep the vendors exclusively that space for black businesses because we want to kind of highlight them and get them noticed. But we have resources for everybody in the community, for every child in the community, because our goal is to build, generational wealth for children. And all children, we don't see color really. It's a vibe for anybody who's like-minded, that wants change, who wants, a village of people they can lean on. Because regardless, you're going to come there and meet someone you might need, a doctor, a lawyer,
It's about making those connections,
But when you spend, all money's green.
Yes. There you go. All money is green, and it's really about supporting, those people who are gonna come ride for you. Because I'm sure if you come support the Body Black Business and you call me and something's popping off, and it's not right, because we're for civil rights. We're for the people. We're gonna come and show out tenfold. So.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're in a time where people are showing their naiveness and things like that. You would think that this year, 2002, people would get it. There's these classifications, but I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you of all your work.
Thank you.
I'm proud of that you are. You were mentioning. I mean, sorry to sound old, but you were mentioning your age, and not to be good about age, but it's good to see somebody in the next generation putting those efforts. Putting that work, making the difference. More important, making a difference. Making Tacoma feel like, it's moving forward. And to me, that's amazing. Just get that from the 1 hour show.
So we started kind of in the middle, right? Because the Body Black Business sprang forward from something that you had already put together, right? The New Generation 2.0 was already put together and moving forward. So what sparked your interest to start the New Generation 2.0 and what was your vision from the beginning, and is it the same?
So I really got started in activism when our family kind of had a couple run-ins with, the police, and just always having a negative interaction with the police. My sister is actually, her kid's father is Charlene Louse's brother. So, having to hear, that family talk about, what they're going through and seeing the pain that they're still going through from the effects of that, it it kind of really has us out there like pushing hard to never have a family feel like that. And we, you know, George Floyd, Manny Ellis, you know, Benny Branch, like Saeed, you know,
Hakeem, Leonard Thomas.
Yes.
The list can just go on.
But specifically things in Tacoma, I seen them doing it all over the world. You know, I learned, you know, we learned about the Rodney King riots. You know, we knew about that in school, but to see like, you know, it happening in your lifespan, because my grandmother marched with Martin Luther King, you know, so I came from a background of hearing, you know, your grandmother got water hose put on her, you know, she got the dog sticked on her for, you know, for you to be you, for you to be able to be black. So I've always got those stories told to me. So when it was time for Tacoma to step up, when people were out there, it was like, all right, let's go. And my actual boyfriend was like, he's the one who was watching the riots. Well, not the riots, actually, it was the protest at this point. No, what they were, the riots or the protest. Something was popping off. I know that it was going crazy in the city, and we had to be there. So we went to it was after the riots, you know, when they had the riots, or, you know, people were like tearing things down.
Are you talking about the George Floyd?
You know, here
George
in Seattle.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is the George Floyd protest, because we had a George Floyd protest here in Tacoma.
So, yeah.
And then there was the one in Seattle, and I was here at the one in Tacoma.
So the one in Tacoma was the first one I went to, but before that, the George Floyd, like May 31st, there was that stuff where people were like destroying Seattle's property and stuff. Yeah, okay. So seeing all of that, and then being like, okay, well, people done went out and tore some stuff up, you know, what could we do that's, you know, peaceful and positive? So they did the George Floyd protest out here in Tacoma. I don't know who did that one, but I remember going, and that's the first day when I was like, okay, this is we're gonna start an organization called the New Generation 2.0. That protest was the day. It was like, okay, this is something that we need to be out here doing. And from that day forward, I believe we started holding protests like every day. Everybody collectively in Tacoma was just meeting up and doing these mass protests. It was like no-name organizations at that point. I know we done a couple ourselves after, but in the beginning, it was just collectively a group of people.
Yeah. And that's what was like so great about whatever was happening, is that you didn't know who was doing what. You like the protest here for George Floyd in Tacoma. I saw it on Facebook, and I was like, hey, who's gonna come with me to this, you know? And then I seen it on a live,
and I showed up, and then it was just from that point everyone started exchanging. I think I made a Facebook group, and then that thing would like boom to hundreds of people started, you know, getting in there, and then people wanted to actually more people wanted to come in support with bringing us water and bringing us things we needed than actually being out there. So those people matter too, because those people were like showing up with food, like, you know, going through traffic, stopping, throwing water and food out for people. We had medics coming out there. You know, it was really people really trying to take care of ourselves out there. It was like a village for them.
Right. There was one. I don't even remember how it started. All I remember is that the neighborhood. I'm part of the neighborhood council, right? And the neighborhood council had bought some waters for everybody who was protesting, and I remember gathering up these waters because there was a protest happening around my house, and I was like, there's something going on. So I just like threw all these waters in the car and in a wagon, right? Like grabbed the little wagon, and I drove up the street, and I hopped out, and I was like, I don't even know really what this is, you know, but I'm about to hand out these waters.
I think everybody was like, hey, on Facebook, like, bring waters, and it was just like, I'll bring you some waters. It was like moms, like, you know, like moms just dropping off like water, like, be safe, and it was like, we will, you know, like.
And it just felt like so much like community should, you know, it really just did, and the fact that like Tacoma, everybody was talking mess about how the George Floyd protest was going to end up in violence, and you know, and it did not in Tacoma. In Seattle it did, and that's a whole other.
We've done nothing but peaceful protests in Tacoma.
Right.
We've done nothing. Anytime we've taken over the freeways, which we've done multiple times, we've had National Guard on us. Like, you know, they got whole plans in Tacoma for organizations doing protests. So. they've always been peaceful. We've never destroyed the city. So
Right, and we've just come together as community to say
block traffic.
this is right, and that's nonviolent. It's totally nonviolent, you know. So, but just every time coming together to just say we are all in solidarity behind these things, just so everybody knows, you know.
Representation, that matters, and that's like the point of the bite is you don't know nothing until you see it. You don't even know you might want to be a part of that until you see it, until you feel it, until it's almost there, you know. So I think that was the idea of people seeing like, well, if all these people are being a part of the change, I don't want to sit around in 50 years and be like, dang, if I would have been one more person, we could have been there. One more person, you get what I mean? So it was kind of great to see all those people, and it was a lot of the youth. One thing about it though was a lot of colleges, you know, it's COVID, a lot of people were off work. It was just the perfect formula of people to stand up for change. I mean, they were giving people $600, barely any money. Like, you know, people aren't going to survive off of this. So a lot of us really want change for the better, and it sparked off with fighting for Black lives. But I feel like now it's still about Black lives, and it's always going to be about Black lives, but it's community. How are we going to build the community? Because I know collectively we need more than just Black people to build. You know, we need all of our allies, and that's how we've always kept it. We've always supported other organizations and other ethnicities. You know, we've done protests down there at the detention center, you know, free the kids in the cages, like bring them home. Like, that's crazy that they're still in cages and everybody's acting like the government didn't kidnap people's kids and we're ignoring it still.
Well, what's crazy about our port, just a little side note to make sure that everybody just remembers that what's crazy about what's going on in our port right this minute is that Inslee signed a bill that said we will not have any private prisons in Washington State. So why in the hell is the Northwest Detention Center still able to operate when it's a private prison?
So unfortunately, it's going to take a couple of years for it to get enforced.
It shouldn't, though, because it's a law.
Exactly.
And the law should be upheld.
But it's these laws, though, too.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's upheld when things like what happened down at Reston Point. It's, you know, you signed on this dotted line, so we're going to uphold this right here. But this other law over here, we're just going to ignore that's there. And that's really what we were all coming together. You know, like what everybody was saying is that, like, the laws that hurt community should not exist. Point blank, period. You know, and I feel like that's the premise of all of this, right? But
the thing about laws, I think one thing people need to understand is they didn't want us to learn how to read for a reason. Because if you look at a lot of deeds and you look around at these old deeds, probably from like 1930, there's deeds that say nobody but a Caucasian family can live in this house. It cannot be sold, rented to, unless they're a servant. You know, that's still deeds right now, still alive, still being honored.
They call that redlining.
So it's
basically they're saying that there's a certain line you cannot cross if you're a minority or you're, you know, a certain income. And it's just.
But there's like actual deeds and houses and buildings and spaces and land that say only a Caucasian can have this. Nothing, no other race. You know what I mean? So they don't want us to know the laws, because if we know the laws, we can learn how to work around the laws, just like they learn how to work around the laws. The laws are put not in our favor, against us. So in order for us to change these laws, again, we got to vote.
We have to vote. We have to run for things. Vote. We have to make sure that we understand who is running, right? Because it's really important to know whether or not this person is running to help your community or to harm your community, right? But there's a really good example of what you were just saying about how they don't want you to know things, they don't want you to be able to read or any of those things. When somebody comes into the Northwest Detention Center, they keep them for a very long time because they're cheap labor. They were cheaper labor before because they were being paid maybe $1 a day or a couple of chip bags a day for their labor. And now they've been forced to give them minimum wage for their labor. So that's really great. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, right? But most of the time, they'll keep them for a very long time. I knew a man who was in prison. I went to one of the caucuses, one of the Black Caucus and the Asian, the AAPI caucuses.
I started learning about those.
Right.
Yeah.
So I went to one of them and met this man who was from London, right? And he was on an ICE hold, and when he left, he was going to the Northwest Detention Center. And just so happened that he was going to leave in a few weeks or something from the time that I had met him. So they only really actually allowed for me to call him once. After that, anytime that he tried to call me or I tried to call him, the phone just dropped. I'm not really sure what happened. But when he came in, because he was somebody who could read, he was from London, so he knew the laws, he could read, he could tell everybody, and he was telling everybody everything, he was like, these are the things that I learned while I was in prison, these are the things that you can do, these are your rights, he was gone in 2 weeks. Because he was telling every single person in there, these are the ways that you can go ahead. Right, exactly. So, I mean, it's really hard for us to come together when we have barriers, right? And what I feel like what we've been doing this whole time is just kind of chipping away at those barriers and knocking them down and making it visible. Like the Buy the Black business, there was no way that people were going to be able to ignore that. Like you had the whole park full of people. There's no way that somebody could just drive by and be like, I don't know, this is happening. They're like, what the hell is this? What's going on here?
Especially the park it's at and the area it's at. It's like in a nice little, it's a nice park and a nice area, so people, had their complaints, why are these people here in the park? And I think a lot of people need to realize, people being Black, another thing about being in the park was people were getting in trouble for playing, all over the country, of selling water in the park, of being in the park, of kids just being Black at the park, that you can't be Black and just be somewhere. So it was really a statement to stand up against, being a street vendor and, kids selling candy and someone, all these, what do they call them, permit patties and, Karen stopping people from just doing simple things that aren't harming people. So it was really okay, we're gonna irritate you. And the bite irritated a lot of folks. It irritated people. It kept a conversation in their mouth, what are you going to do about these kids? They're still in the park. They're still doing this. And we kind of just didn't let up until
Was there a lot of police presence after a while?
No, I think the city moved smartly, and they didn't want that type of interaction because the park is owned by Metro Park. So the park never called the police on us. The people at the park, actually mowing down the grounds at the park, were always kind to us. They always were helping us get trash.
You were going there. You weren't staying there though, right?
No, we were just going setting up.
Just wanted to clarify.
No, they couldn't tell.
You made it sound
they wouldn't. They couldn't tell when we were there. When it was gonna happen, it'd be we just shoot out a flyer and be all right, we're in the park this day, and then they'd send me messages don't set up, but I do it anyway. So
there was that one time that they tried to spread those rumors about the trash. I remember they were trying to say
that we had trash, and we've always cleaned up. I'm usually the last person to leave the park, and I actually know the groundsmen at the park, so they're super cool. They give us trash bags and they pick up the trash throughout the event. Low-key, did the park know that? I don't know. It's your workers, but they were always helping us out. It was more the higher ups, that were hey, this is a problem. But it was COVID, so what could they really do? They couldn't give out permits anyway, so people aren't going to stop. Like I said, people were in a financial bind. We created a source of a place where these people can get income, and that's kind of the goal, was to circulate the dollar to build back generational wealth on our own. And we did it without the help of the city, without funding. It was just happened. The beauty of the people, that's the power of it. If you get enough people tired of something, enough people are gonna want to change. And that's kind of the idea, to keep people thinking okay, well, if we were able to do this, how much more can we do? And imagine how much money, and then how much more other communities and other nationalities of color can we help? Because that's the goal, is to help all these other people.
We need that kind of
But you gotta think, how can you help somebody else if you can't even help yourself? So it's always, get solid, build the foundation, and then
Well, one of the things that we talked about prior to the show, you were talking about how you were doing to help the next generation, like set up classes, things like that.
Yeah, so the goal is, to build generational wealth. So we have kid businesses out there, youth businesses, entrepreneur workshops, because our goal is to teach kids about business early so they can be their own boss. I think a lot of times in society, people want you to just go to work 9 to 5. And sometimes I feel like we work like rats. We don't get to really live. So the goal is, if you're a business owner, and I'm not saying it's going to be easier, you're going to have to work 10 times harder, but the beauty about it is you're working for your dream. It's your sweat and tears for your dream, your drive, 8 hours a day. You're going to feel a lot better than going to work somebody else's goals, somebody else's dreams to inspire, working 20 times as hard for somebody else's vision, when really I think if we had a lot more of support for the younger generation, and we set them up at a young age with good credit and how to buy a house and how to get credit cards and not max them out and how to balance it, they're not going to struggle their whole lives trying to get a job to pay bills that are super high in Tacoma. They're going to be able to find themselves, because if you find people that find themselves, they can mentor other people. Because right now we're dealing with the generation of hurt people, and hurt people hurt people.
Also change that system in itself. Because sometimes you may be, like I said, you may be the good person, you may be getting the credit and all that, and then you're hitting other barriers besides the financial or the way you handle things.
Stress. So, if you don't have support, a system, a group of community and unity, you can be a millionaire but still be lonely. So it's really about building self-love for yourself and teaching the generation how to balance the stress and their triggers, because we deal with a lot of trauma, and generational trauma is just in our DNA. So it's like, how can we balance the levels of being an adult, being, this person and that person, and it's hard to navigate through the world.
A lot of us think of just our experience in life because we get to live it, but the next generation is right there. People think it's going to be years, and it's not. Yeah,
it's literally the next group, the next group. So people are like, oh, well, why are these kids acting like this and not doing that? Well, it's like, because these kids are hurt, because their parents didn't get that love. It's always been this hard love, and we need to like break it down so kids can feel supported, because then we won't have these kids out here doing crazy stuff, interacting and doing,
so
lead
let's
by
say
example.
How many people in your business groups or in your Generation 2.0, how much youth do you have?
So our organization has, we start off, I think I might be like one of the oldest people in there. Well, no, we do have some people that are like 30.
Oh my God.
But everybody is like, in their 20s, 21s. And then we have youth. We do have children that are in, TNG, but we haven't really been able to. We're trying to get funding.
We had like some young people who had a business.
Yeah. So I do have a couple people that have businesses. My kids actually have businesses, and my little cousins have businesses that sparked from the Bite of Light business.
Nice. So there's that generational thing.
Yeah. So that's the idea is, my son's 4 and he has a lemonade stand. He runs his lemonade stand, and then my bonus daughter, she runs a DJ business, and then my niece, she runs a bracelet business, and and then one thing we have to do is have the kids come and volunteer at the lemonade stand. So even if your kid doesn't have a business, they can come volunteer at the lemonade stand, and just pay them, of course, but teach them this is what you're going to invest back in your products. This is how much the cups were, and just trying to teach them about money at an early age, because what does the world revolve around? Is money.
Exactly. So we won't get too far into this because I think we're at a perfect time. How can they get a hold of you? I know we're going to put information on the 1 hour comments. Is there any way that if anybody's interested, especially in the African American business side, if they want to participate? Yeah,
of course. You can reach out to us at tng253.org. If you want to become a vendor, go ahead and click that Become a Vendor link. There's also a message board on there where you can send us a message to get involved. If you want to volunteer, sponsor, donate, have any dope ideas you want us to bring to the community, we're all ears for it. Workshops. Even if you're not a person of color, if you're not Black and you want to help inspire the community and be a part of the community, we allow, come join us, be a part of, our village, because the new Generation 2.0 allows anybody of any race to participate in anything. We just like to spotlight, eventually when we can get up there, like I said, we want to, try to do like a, collectively collaborate with other organizations and do other events like the Bite of Mexico, you know, different things that would be fun, you know, but make sure that we're being respectful, of course, of other people's cultures, because we don't want to be the people who always talking like, you can't do this and then go do something. So in the future, if we could, you know, get together with, you know, a couple people and other organizations, I think it would be cool to like have, I mean, it wouldn't be Ethnic Fest because, you know, that's its own
I was
thing,
just about to bring that up.
I mean, Ethnic Fest is, we were just like we were saying before, like Ethnic Fest isn't even Ethnic Fest because they've gentrified it so much.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people ask like why the division. It's not really the division. I think we need to come back to our roots and identify. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be you in your group, but respect other people. It's when you become this superior attitude. As we know, there's a group of folks who try to be a superior race. You know, I think once folks start really focusing and being like, okay, Black people are moving up. This means like, come on, y'all. Like if we've been at the bottom of the pot. You know, so if we can give people inspiration to say, hey, no, we're not taking the crumbs anymore. So every other person of color, any person that feels like these group of people are doing wrong, stand with us. Because again, we're for the people. We're for the community. Eventually, it's not going to be about color. That's the goal. So what are they doing to us humans? Because you're still affected. Like, well, you know, the climate, what they're doing at the ports, that still affects us as a person, regardless if we take away race, you know? Because a lot of people say, what about race? What about race? Well, take it away. We still have issues with housing.
Yeah.
Gas is way too high.
Yeah, the gas.
People are getting outpriced in their home. Even if you are white and making a decent amount of money, you can't afford to live there either. So it's a class thing now.
I mean, there's a segment of people who believe that there is no war, but except for a class war, because that's where the war actually starts, right? And like in the end, when movements move towards that, right? Like movements will start in a certain place, and then the minute that they start moving towards unity and class unity, that's when their leaders get assassinated. So
yeah,
I mean.
Yeah, see.
That's the reality of it.
But the goal for me is like, I think I speak things into the future, and I always you speak into existence.
Exactly.
We will not be at the bottom forever. It's just not gonna happen. You know, we're going to the top. We're already there. We just gotta understand it. You know, and just really understand and keep saying it.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to correct you, but I said believing it.
Believing it.
Because I work and I've talked to a lot of youth, and they believe only what they've been taught. So they can't see themselves at a higher level, or they can't see themselves being a certain profession because they've never been told they can do it. And I think what you're doing, it's exactly what people need. You know, people need to see, hey, collaboration. They need to work against the system. They need to work against, where they've been pictured at. You know, they need to break that mold. And but it's a lot of work. Like you said, it's a lot of work. And we were talking about that down there where, this is my time to kind of talk about your life. We were talking about that. Everybody thinks that you're sitting here, you're talking about your product, you're talking about what you do. But as you said it, a lot of people don't know that you're going through this struggle.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always say that you cannot save the world if your own home is burning. So it's really important that if you're out here doing things for the community, you take care of yourself. I don't think a lot of people understand that we're under such a magnitude, like a magnifying glass to be perfect and to always be excellent, that we have faults. We're human. I'm just a person trying to make change. I don't know everything. I may put it on like I do because that's what I've always been, strong, always had to be strong. So I wear it well, but I think some people need to have like a little bit of faith and compassion and just understanding and realistic expectations. Like if you want something to be great, you have to invest in it. So sometimes you need to invest in, the younger people so that it can be great. Because I always hear opinions from older people. Well, if you have an opinion, come show me, come teach me. I'm asking you to, be my mentor and guide me. Don't, throw judgment on me and, just
exactly.
not help, because that's not going to help. And I think a lot of people don't want to spread the knowledge, and a lot of people don't want to share it because they feel like it's competition.
It's gatekeeping.
And I think a lot of people should do markets. I think, if you have any, like, you're like, they don't do markets like this, or they don't do something like this, go create it. Go make it. Because how you would know if somebody else not going to like it, or there's other people like you that don't like it? There's millions of people in the world, so.
Well, one of the things I learned, being a little bit older, that you're not going to please everybody. Everybody's got their own song and dance. But the most important song and dance is the one in your heart, the one where you said, go make it, go do it. Because at this time, that's what we're lacking. We're not lacking more rich billionaires in society. We need the people who are teaching the young. And I don't mean just teaching them like a classroom, like teaching them about life, teaching them about correction.
I think that's important.
Supporting your own culture.
Yeah, support your own culture. Be proud in that.
I think that is what, I think that's where other people start to, especially people that are in the dominant culture, right, start to get annoyed about certain things. Like, why does it have to be the bite of black business? Well, because it is. Because it's the bite of black business.
Yeah.
And literally you can go ahead and support your own culture and support your own things while still coming together to support other things when it comes to something else. Like, you don't have to. The bite of black business was your guys's, but it wasn't like you were like, well, I'm only going to do this and this is all I'm going to do. No, you were there for the other March Madness protest that we did and all that stuff.
Down.
Right, and I think I feel like the people in the dominant culture want us to feel bad for wanting to say, like,
the want versus
just saying, hey, this thing here, like black people get pulled over, and like Manny Ellis is a perfect example. He wasn't even pulled over. He was just walking down the street, and 5 minutes later he's dead. Like that type of shit stuff. Sorry.
We'll edit that out.
This live. Anyways, but like, when you start to talk about things like that, then other people are like, natives will say, well, what about this and what about that, and then the next person, and we can't do that. We have to say, no, this thing matters right here, and this thing matters, and this thing over here, and the Latino community matters.
Okay.
All of these things matter, and I'm always saying that. Latinos are 16% of the community. Black people are 13% of the community. Natives are only 3% of the community. But so when you take those percentages and you just say, no, I'm gonna do this thing over here with me. This is my thing. I'm gonna do this thing over here with me. Y'all go do your thing over there with you. 50% of the community is the dominant culture, right? So like, if you take these percentages, you have 13% of the community. Even if you got every single one of those 13% of the community, you're still only 13%. But if you say, hey, let's go ahead and collaborate with this 16% over here, me and this 13%, then you become a whole quarter of the community, and you start to
more impact.
Right, you start to create a bigger impact. That's why it's necessary for us to understand each other's struggles and to support each other within those struggles, because we need those numbers to be able to affect things, right?
I think a lot of people have to look at it too, like, they pit people against each other. Like, if it's not, the superior race, or the people who think they're the superior race or dominant race, they put all people of color against each other. So you got, the blacks and the Latinos fighting. Because I was in school, and we did not get along. It was definitely an issue. You know what I mean? California, it's literally movies about it. Freedom Ride? It's about it. These people coming from different areas.
The best way to fight a culture is divide it.
Right? Yeah. So it's like they spend so much time to be like, okay, well, they're doing this over here. We're not going to support it. But the idea of it is like, hey, if we just come here with the idea and the goal is, and we can get the funding and the mindset behind it, we can pour into other things. Again, like, I've talk to people about collaborating, like, you know, like I said, doing like a Bind of Mexico, or, you know, doing something like that. I mean, we even go protest when, you know, they were doing like the Islander Polynesian protests. Like, we would show up for any protest because, you know, we're the New Generation 2.0. We support all groups. We're a protest organization. The bite itself is just a fundraiser to get a youth center. So that's kind of like the idea. But if people are like, hey, you know, I want to help you do this for my culture, I'm down. But I can't, like, it's so much blood, sweat, and tears for my own culture to even try to think about pouring into somebody else's. I mean, I'm Native American, so, I mean, I'm down to do a powwow, but I kind of respect the tribe and how they do their stuff. So, again, it's like if people collectively say, hey, Erin, let's come together and do this massive event for, you know, people of color, anybody that's, you know, a person of color, I'm down. Like, it's not going to be a problem. So
coming down here to a close time, and I just want to say thank you very much for who you are. I mean, we need people like you in this society now. We need to wake up. I say wake up the next generation and say, hey, we need to organize. We need to work hard. I mean, you've been an example more than anybody could. I just want to thank you. Thank you very much. And you know, we keep talking about divisions and things like that. And you know, I don't even want to bring it up because you are talking so beautiful about uniting and all the hard work you've done for the group. But we're kind of gonna leave it a little segment here in the end that. It's talk about division is happening right now to us, and even though the story keeps still changing, and there was a thing here at Ruston Way.
Oh yeah.
You know that I felt it was very insulting for the community. Whether it's contractual, or was it naturally it was supposed to happen, or was it what it is in many ways? You know, a lot of people want to call it racist, and I'm just bottom line is just that. I just want people who are watching my show that next week we're probably going to do a little bit more in depth, you know, talk about it. But I feel my point of view was as a Hispanic person in this city, I feel that we don't need divisions. And to me, that was one of the most divided thing they could have done to our community.
Well, for those people who don't understand and know what happened was that at Point Reston, there is a farmer's market at Point Reston that a few of the vendors, two of the vendors were told that they were not able to continue to sell food at the farmer's market because the farmer's market is on Point Reston property. Yeah. I don't want to say land because it's not their land at all, but on Point Reston property, and there was another brick and mortar restaurant there that had a clause in their contract that said that nobody else was to sell quote unquote Mexican food at Point Reston. And so the Cohens themselves took it upon themselves to tell the farmers market that these two vendors that sold Mexican food could not sell Mexican food anymore. The brick and mortar restaurant has come out to say that they are not in agreement with that, and that they would love it if, you know, we could stay community, and that regardless of what was written on the piece of paper. And that's where I'm like, just because it is written doesn't mean that it is set in stone, doesn't mean that it's even. Right, because what harms community? We need to see what harms community. We need to make sure that whatever we have written down is changed if it is harming our community. And by telling two businesses that make their sole money, right? They pay their bills off of coming to this space and selling their food. That's harming community, telling them that they can't do that.
Yeah. Well, they pretty much try to, you know, do the middle of the road that that type of food was going to be served. But to me, even when they say it that way, to me, it's still very insulting.
Yeah, it's definitely
It's
insulting,
like-
and it's definitely racist. I mean, I'm just gonna say that.
They definitely should have never, just from the market standpoint, because I did markets, went through this whole process. The market themselves, they should have made sure that any businesses set up were allowed to be set up there, and also I feel like they should have just kind of handled the announcement a little better. It was just a little.
To me, like I said, it was a PR nightmare.
It was kind of like a point the finger type of thing, and it's not like ownership. And they should have just stayed solid with with those vendors and let them set up regardless. Like what was Point Wrestling going to do? Tell you to shut down? Well, hold the line, protest it because it wasn't right.
And I mean, if you have more competition, guess what? It's better for the customer because people are trying to.
And that's the thing.
Or at least let them finish the market out though, because in a market, these folks had to pay for permits. Like I'm pretty sure they paid for their farmers market with Tacoma Farmers Market. I'm pretty sure they paid them to set up. Just being paying for all of that stuff, that's just a burden on that business. There's somewhere where some lines were crossed, where somebody dropped the ball there. So hopefully in the future they can really make sure that when they're going into a contract with a place you're doing a rental agreement with, you have all the facts. And is this person a place to do your market? Should you be even having a market there to support people who are not supporting other cultures?
Right.
That's the question.
Right.
At least let these folks do the whole market out. I mean, I would have been let them complete the market, and then next year maybe not say, hey, Mexican style food, just don't accept those type of vendors. There could have been a better way to handle that.
At the same time, if everybody would have just sat down, if instead of saying, oh no, you can't come tomorrow after
that
you
was
have
just
your
crazy.
Food preparation and all that,
because the health department approved them. That's the crazy thing,
right? So instead of saying that, saying, hey, so come tomorrow, and then after tomorrow, Taco Street and these two vendors and the owners of Point Resting, we're going to all sit down at a table and we're all going to talk this over. We're all going to work this through, and maybe a contract needs to be changed. Maybe wording in the contract needs to be changed. Maybe something needs to happen. That's the way that we should do things. That's taking care of community, right?
But before anything was signed, Point Resting knew about those vendors. They knew about that contract. It's been why? How they've been setting up since May? I thought they said.
Yeah, they've been several months into it.
Okay, so again,
it went back to it was the way it was handled. So a lot of people are hiding to the fact, well, it was handled a certain way, but it's also like you said, it snapped a picture of what's going on in that area.
Yeah, if you would have.
And what I'm thinking here is. Not to make trouble, but go support the local vendors down there. Go support, the Hispanic people down there. It's not their fault, and we're going to make sure we get all the other Hispanic trucks in there. In other words, it's not over.
You guys are better than me. Y'all should have just pulled up. I mean, you know what we do with the buy-to-buy business? We have people pull up. Go ahead and I would have pulled up. Everybody the day said that.
Amelia.
Let's talk about LULAC a little bit. LULAC is an organization, Latinos Unidos from Northwest, our group. We're down there right away protesting. And
I see. I heard you guys was out there.
They were protesting out there right away. Go ahead. Let's talk about Amelia. So,
I was just gonna say that Amelia and Christopher we were all talking.
But they should have told 1,000 people to show up and set up your trucks with tacos
and of course a lot of people say, oh, you need jerk reaction, but it's gonna take that for people to understand.
I'm telling you, if you guys would have had all them taco trucks, burrito trucks standing up, they would have been so upset.
Oh no,
that's the point though. Sometimes they want to poke you gotta poke them back.
Yeah, I know. Poke the bear.
But then it was the other businesses that probably had no.
We'll have other methods. I can't say more on this show. Liability to the station. But what I'm trying to say is that. Even though it wasn't any reaction, we have to react to protect our culture.
Are you guys going to be out there this Sunday?
Yeah, so, we'll talk about it. Can't talk about it on the station. But anyway, bottom line is we just want the people who are watching the show understand that, we are the biggest minority in this community. Mm-hmm. And for those who think, contractually or not, that you're going to affect the Hispanic community in this city, no. So anyways, I don't want to end it on a bad note.
No,
I also want to end it
like a bad note.
Yeah,
I
also
think
want
it's
to
like come together,
very powerful
understand
note.
that regardless, people are not gonna allow the disrespect anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
People are gonna fight.
People are
or
watching.
People want to be
People
for
are
the
looking.
people.
People
want
are-
to be out here to support and be in unity. And the people who can't understand that it's unity are just gonna have to get a wake up call.
Exactly.
Peacefully.
Peacefully. And that's what it takes. And we've been taught by our forefathers that you have to stand up. Or we wouldn't be here. So, anyways, I always let my guests, any last words? This is your time for, if you want to express anything, say anything.
Well, I appreciate you guys for allowing me to come out. If you guys are free this summer, come check us out at Wright Park. July 31st is our first event. We'll be out there August 20th, 21st, July 10th and 11th. August is our back to school event, so our goal is to get 1,000 filled backpacks and give them out to the youth. So if you want to, donate, participate, sponsor, reach out to us. We're looking for organizations to pledge, 15 backpacks, a couple pencils or so,
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. So, anything that you like to say?
No.
Wow, welcome to my show. Anyways, I always try to leave our show with a little bit of a positive note or a little message. And my message tonight is exactly what we've been talking all night. We need to, it's our own selves, it's our own, Latinos, natives. We need to, like I said, stand up for our own people. Like, generational wealth to me is not just a term. It's an actual way of living for our next generations. And it's not going to be easy. Our great-grandfather, my great-grandfather, my great-great-great-grandfather worked hard for me to be here today. And, we owe it to the next generation. So I'm not saying you have to be a fighter or make it angry. You could do it, education-wise. Learn the game. I used to tell my children, beat them at their own game, So, and this is what I see coming from you. Beat them at their own game. You got the permits. Now we're official. Now we have something to celebrate. So I really want to thank you for all that work. And I'm so glad I got to meet you today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just how the best way you can support your community is being a part of it. Go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, go read that book. Be proud of who you are, be proud of your heritage, your culture. Be you, because that really what makes us all different and makes the world better is to have, 1,000 snowflakes falling, and we're all different. But we're all great, because when you put it all together, it's a beautiful blanket of snow, right?
Okay. All right. Well, good night, and thank you for watching the show. You got to remember, this is a podcast. We can play it at any time. And thank you very much.
Thank
good night.
you.